Hello everyone, welcome back to Zen's AI Corner, where I use simple plain English to explain the terminologies. So if the first time you come to my channel, on the screen there is a QR code, which is you can go to my channel and find more videos and content. If you has already subscribed, thank you so much for that. So without getting in the way, let's get into today's topic. Today, I want to talk about another terminology you probably see very often on internet, which is called Agentic AI. Right. So if you've been following my channel for a while, you probably understand in the past I would kind of introduce how large language module works, which is how AI works, and how RAG works, which is retrieval augmented like a generation, how it works. So that is all about how to make the AI or large language module, how you going to call it, and how it works, and how you're going to generate, how you can control the context. But agentic AI, on the other end, is to let more than one large language module to work together to carry out the result, right? So in the past, we are talking about the large language module. For example, this is AI, right? How it works, right? How it's able to produce results, right? And how you're going to manage the context window, for example. But in order to run a complex task, you might need more than one large language module to complete a more complex task. Therefore, you might need two large language modules, right? Let's say this is LLM1, this is LLM2, this could be LLM3, for example, blah, blah, blah. You could have more than one. So how to make those multiple large language modules work together and to leverage their best capability to carry out a complex work is agentic AI. Sounds easy, right? So that is how agentic AI means in a nutshell. But of course, in the real world, it's much more complex, right? So if you be following my channel, you probably know I be talking about RAG, Retrieval-Augmented Generation. That actually is one type of agentic AI, which we have the embedding large language module, right? If on AWS Bedrock, you probably can use Titan. If you want to use other like Crane, there is embedding large language module, and also there is generative. For example, Llama. For example, like Cloud, like there are Opus or like Haiku, right? They are the generative large language, or there are some vision specific or voice specific large language module, right? How you make those large language module work together to carry out a complex task? That's agentic AI. So in RAG solution, for example, right? In RAG solution, for example, we have agentic large language module, which will have embedding large language module to do the embedding work. Message, right? And then use those embedding message to query the database to get the knowledge, and therefore the knowledge feed back to generative larger module into its context window. Therefore, generative larger module is able to generate result, which you can feed back to the customer who have questions, right? Therefore, this whole RAG as a solution able to generate a response, answer customer questions, specific question based on the knowledge, which is work together, which is the result of embedding large language module and a generative large language module, right? They work together. And in this example, how does the solution know? Like first, it need to call the embedding large language module. Then how does the solution know? Then after calling embedding large language module, and you need to call generative large language module to generate result. It is controlled by the program, right? Code. So in this way, it's more like it's a external orchestration, right? It's like the whole workflow is managed, orchestrated by your program because you know what you want to do. The first, listen to customer their care questions. Second, then trying to call embedding larger module to get embedding vectors for the question which customer asked it. Three, your program called knowledge database to find relevant knowledge. Four, then you use those knowledge feedback to the generative large language module context window. Five, use the larger generative large language module to generate result. And six, you output to the user. So all of those workflow is managed by your code. Doesn't matter you are using Python, Java, Node.js, TypeScript, whatever you call it, you name it. And that is called external orchestration, right? External, which is your code. But in a more modern, complex world, or maybe in a more like AI-driven world, there is a specific large language module. They might be responsible for planning, right? To do those orchestration work. In RAG, as I said, you might want to use your code. Most of the time, you use your code to do those work. But in some scenario, which is not external orchestration, like this kind of scenario, there is a planner, large language module. You can choose which large language module you want to use, right? You pick your own. You might want to use Llama, you want to use Gemini or ChatGPT. It's up to you, right? But there is a planner large language module which is able to think about what's the first thing I need to do, what's the second task I need to do, what's the third need to do, blah 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 blah. Then start like doing the task. But how large language module, this planner is only responsible for planning. But how the plan is executed is still run by your code, right? So you might have your code. And you might heard there is a LangChain, LangGraph. LangChain is like a most you use to call large language module. LangGraph basically is like you want to define a group, define those nodes. Therefore, your code is able to orchestration the large language module, right? So basically, like if you want to use this planner large language module, which is come up with steps, then each step 1, 2, 3, then they might have individual separate large language module responsible for this kind of task. I'll give you an example. For example, you have a customer support system, right? The customer, they come in asking questions. Then you have a larger language module. We'll call it like you have LLM1, which is asking about what your question is, what your question is, right? And then you have a large language module called LLM2, which is able to classify. Is the question is about customer is asking about account inquiry, or is it billing inquiry, or policy detail inquiry, or product detail inquiry? Then like maybe you have a classifier. Classifier like a large language module. Then based on the classifier responsibility, you might want to call different large module. Right? You might want to call different large module. For example, this large module is specialized in billing. This large module about the policy. This large module is responsible for example, responsible for account inquiry. Right. So by doing this, the whole solution here, which you have multiple large language module working, right, and therefore can deliver a correct response back to the customer. This is called Agentic AI. Right. So I hope this make it very easy to to let you understand how it works as agentic AI. So long story in short, what agentic AI is basically is like how the large language module they can work together to carry out result, right? There are two types of the agentic AI, at least for now. One is external orchestration, like a rack, for example. Your code basically your code knows like what's the steps, what's the plan is. Or you want to have the large language module have a planner which is think about what's the next steps, right? For example, this part, or to be more precisely, for example, there is a classify, which after classify the questions, then you might have a larger module sitting after that, right? For example, this is a larger module X, for example, is a planner based on the task. So which larger module you need to call to finish to carry out the answer to answer customer question, right? So this is like another type of large module. Of course, this kind of large like agentic AI is harder to control. You might want to think about how are you make sure the result is accurate. So therefore, there might be another topic I can talk about in the future. But today, I just want to focus on about what the agentic AI is. Hope this video, which is informative for you and make you able to quickly understand what agentic AI is. And thank you so much for you to come into my channel. And I will talk to you next time. Peace out.